Welcome to the Tear Talk Podcast with author, coach, and speaker MaShani Allen. Known as the Golden Scribe, MaShani has over 2 decades of writing experience, and her passion for the craft has given her the opportunity to impart wisdom, affirmation, hope, and confidence into many. Let's listen now as MaShani delves into topics that have impacted her on her Tear Talk journey and helped her discover the power of the pen.
Welcome to the Tear Talk podcast. So glad to have you join on today. I know that some of you have looked at the topic H.O.T and you wonder, what is she going to talk about today? Well, you don't have to have your curiosity for too much longer, because I'm really ready to tell you what the H.O.T actually stands for. And I'm sure many of you, it's not what you think. You know, I know that some of you wonder, how is she able to talk about writing so much and have so much passion and be so consistent in her zeal of getting people to write, getting people to journal, getting people to record, and to come to understand the power of the pen? And I wanted to talk to you about being honest or transparent. Honesty or transparency. That's what the H.O.T stands for. And I think that a lot of people assume that those words are very similar, so they mean the same thing. But in actuality, they don't. Now, this topic became a key in my life probably about 3 years ago. I was having a tough time relationally in some ways, and I ended up listening to a sermon actually from Pastor Michael Todd. And he was doing his series on relationship goals. And I purposed to listen to them. I have a whole journal of notes that I took from the sermon, but there was something in particular that really stuck out to me in that sermon series that in a lot of ways was life-changing for me. And he explained the difference between honesty and transparency. Now, y'all already know me and Webster are BFFs, so I already went to look up the definitions of the two, but I want us to really consider even the more once I share the perspective that he gave. Now, the definition of honesty is the quality of being fair and truthful. And the definition of transparent is honest and open, not secretive. So definitions given shows us there definitely is a similarity between the two. But as I was typing this, one of the main things that I think causes a distinction, and this is what I wrote regarding it, is transparency is being forthcoming and sharing information without being asked. So the way that I remember him talking about it is honesty is answering questions, while transparency is giving information without being asked questions. So I thought that was pivotal for me, because I realized that I was definitely able to be honest, but I don't know if I was always able to be transparent. And what I began to understand is transparency actually opens up a level of vulnerability. Many people are being, and not, sometimes even honesty can be a challenge depending on the question that's being asked. But transparency is a whole nother level, because it's you opening yourself up without being asked. It's your willingness to share and willingness to expose yourself in so many ways without being asked the question. And me being who I am, I'm one who always has questions. It's a part of my makeup. It's a part of my nature. I find that questions can be keys, and they can really help to unlock people. They can unlock circumstances and situations. They can unlock information. So I've always been inquisitive, and I've always been one that asks questions, and I don't mind people asking me questions. I know when I would teach, I would tell my students, you can ask me anything. I may not tell you everything, but whatever I do tell you, it will be the truth. So that was a thought process that I have had for years. But when I heard that sermon that broke down for me the difference between being honest and being transparent, I realized that in a lot of ways my honesty game was strong. But that transparency game, it could be better. Not that I wasn't transparent at all, because I really am like an open book. But I realized that I was still very guarded, and I was still very limited, even to those who had proven themselves to me to be trustworthy, to be faithful, and to really be friends. And I remember one of my best friends would tell me how my journal was my BFF. And I would laugh about it, but I realized later what she was really saying was that I was able to share everything there, but I still wasn't as transparent as I needed to be in certain areas for growth to take place, for healing to take place, and even for new perspectives to be presented to me. And her comment didn't cause me to not journal. If anything, it helped me to be open, sharing more of what I had been journaling. And that's another reason why I am such an advocate of the power of the pen, because I find that it's easier for me to be not just honest, but to take it to the next level of transparency once I've been able to write things down. So with one of my best friends, when it comes to our communication, generally, if something is expressed to me, I need time to process it. That's just, it annoys her to no end, but that's the way my mind works. I need time to gather my thoughts. And many times when I'm gathering my thoughts, that means I need to write my thoughts down so I can have a comprehensive, thought out response. Now, this is how I operate the bulk of the time. There are moments where I'm able to respond immediately, but for the most part, because I am so particular about words, because I understand the power of words, I need time to process my thoughts. And I believe that that has been a saving grace for me, though it can definitely be a bother to others. It's helped me to dissect and come to a really good place of clarity in being able to express myself relationally, because I've been able to consider both sides of a circumstance or a situation. Now, I don't know if I always was like this, but I do know that in my desire to be a better person, to be a better sister, to be a better friend, to be a better everything, I found that this process works very well for me because it causes me to be purposeful in my responses. Not to say that I go completely mute, but you might have to wait a few days before you get a full response from me. And I have become very comfortable knowing that this is how I operate. I kind of can't help it because of my desire to want to be truthful and to want to be honest. I need time to assess the facts and to look at the full landscape before I speak. And I think that understanding that process has also helped me to become more and more and more transparent. I've learned the beauty of transparency, but I had to learn, or I had to be honest first in order to embrace the transparency part. And I think that my knowing that the journal doesn't judge, it helps me to be first honest with myself and transparent with myself to then be honest and transparent with others. And I think that some people, it's easier to be honest with others than to be with yourself. But I think that there is so much power that comes to you when you're able to be honest with yourself, when you're able to look at your flaws, when you're able to look at your failures, when you're able to look at your shortcomings, when you're able to look at your mistakes, when you're able to look at your weaknesses. Oh my goodness. It is something that so many people shrink from, but I'm here to tell you, if you can take the steps with yourself of seeing and recognizing and analyzing, not from a negative place, but from a place of, like I spoke of last week, pinpointing, being able to speak of where you are, being able to locate yourself. There is so much healing. There is so much growth, and there is so much potential when you are able to do that with you first. And I have found that my pen has helped me to be able to locate my weaknesses. My pen has helped me to be able to locate my shortcomings. My pen has helped me to be able to locate my failures. My pen has helped me to be able to locate my character flaws. For me personally, I don't see any other way that is such a strong indicator of helping you to notice and to notify those aspects of who you are. And it doesn't have to be from a condemning place. It doesn't have to be from a judgmental place, but it comes from a place of honesty that also takes you to transparency. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I really believe that so many people want to come to this place. They just don't know how. And I'm here to tell you, writing and journaling. And I mean, again, when I say writing and journaling, remember that also means voice recorders. It's not just the pen and the keyboard, but it's whatever you use to be able to take note and to be able to take notice. I am one who notices things about myself. And I've learned the value of that, but also the beauty of it. Oh my gosh. I think that sometimes we can be so focused on external voices that we need to come to the place of understanding the power of the internal voice and giving that voice space and giving that voice a voice, i.e., recording. And, speaking of honesty and speaking of transparency, I had a situation last week. I was talking to two ladies while I was on campus and during my lunchtime. And I asked one of the young ladies a question. And this was my first time meeting her, but I could hear, well, first of all, I could see in her mannerisms how the question was extremely challenging her. And basically, it was a question that helped to identify her gift and her calling. And she squirmed and she didn't want to say the word. And that led me to basically expressing to her that when you are able to embrace or identify yourself as this, it will really unlock even the more the gift that you have. And I continued to talk and, drop wisdom nuggets to both of them. And she was texting herself and taking notes of the different things that I said. But what I found most beautiful about the whole exchange is within possibly 10 to 15 minutes, she then asked me to ask her the question again. And I was really impressed that she took that posture. So I asked her the question again. And this time she took ownership of her identity. And I let her know that her response alone will cause her to go very far, because it doesn't take her long to obey. Not me, God, but it didn't take her long after hearing truth and honesty being revealed to her. She was quick to respond. And I thought that was such a beautiful moment, because when truth comes, when honesty comes, when transparency comes, we should be quick to adjust ourselves and to respond to what's being said, what's being spoken, and what's being revealed. Now, I know I started off this podcast saying how sometimes it can take me days, but actually I've become a little quicker in my response time because I've done it more and more and more. And I remember after listening to the sermon from Pastor Michael Todd, I remember calling my best friend and I remember confessing to her that I realized that I had a really strong honesty game. But that transparency game, that was a whole nother other. And I remember sharing with her that I just needed her to be more patient with me in my transparency. And when I say transparency, I'm talking about the deep things of your heart. Like, I can be extremely transparent on things that come to the surface, but some things of the heart, because of the pain that was associated with certain aspects of my heart, there was straight key codes on that part of my heart. There was straight locks and, couldn't nobody get in. It was like a vault like no other. And although that served me, I can't say it served me well, but in some instances it was definitely needed and necessary for protection. I couldn't continue to function like that and have the depth of the types of relationships that I have if I had not opened the door or opened and gave people access to the key code, because I realized my willingness to be transparent, which equates to me being willing to be vulnerable, it was a game changer in expediting some of my healing. And I think that sometimes when we have been bruised and we have been damaged and we have dealt with a lot, we feel that holding on to it is a thing that can keep us safe and protect us. But when people have proven themselves to be truthful and to have your best heart in mind, they can actually have a key or a level of healing for you when you are able to get past just being honest, but being willing to be transparent, which means being willing to be vulnerable. Now, I'm not saying to share your whole life with everybody, but there are people that can be strategically positioned that can help you not on just your journey, but really on your healing journey. Because for many people, your healing is coming through relationships. And when you can allow your tears to talk in your relationships, it can bring an unsurmountable amount of healing to your life. And I have found myself now over time to where I can write something in my journal and be able to express it to a person quicker, as opposed to before. I would, like my friend said, my journal was my BFF. And I understood what she was saying, and I've gotten to a place of being able to be more transparent, but that was a process for me. Again, because of the level of pain. But because I've been one who's willing to, people think I just do deep dives into people, but the reason why I can do deep dives into people is because I first did deep dives into myself. And my desire to want to help people isn't out of being nosy. It is out of understanding the power and the freedom that comes when you're honest and transparent with yourself first, to then be able to be that for others and to help them come to a new level of healing, help them come to a new level of understanding, but also help them come to a new level of maturity. So the question is, have you been honest, or have you been transparent, or have you been both? And that's not something that you should rush to answer, but it's something that you should certainly consider. And I'm so thankful that you joined this podcast. And I pray that the next time that you see that a podcast has become live, that you choose to press, you choose to press play. Before I close, I want to leave you with this one verse that comes from Proverbs 12:17. It says, whoever speaks the truth gives honest evidence. And honest evidence is needed for beautiful relationships.
Thank you for joining the Tear Talk podcast. You can purchase today's featured t-shirt and learn more about MaShani by visiting MaShaniAllen.com. Also, check out her exclusive line of custom journals at bit.ly/The Golden Scribe.